Taking a leap of faith is rarely simple, but with the right knowledge, perspective and support, it can be the most rewarding step you'll ever take. In this podcast from Verilo, we bring you honest conversations with people who have navigated the realities of buying, selling and owning businesses. These entrepreneurs and experts from the healthcare, medical and wellness sector share what they've learnt when they stepped into the unknown. Welcome to The Leap. Today's guest is someone who has been building businesses since the age most of us were trying to figure out what we wanted to do with our lives. I'm joined by Emily Hughes, a serial entrepreneur who started her first venture aged 13, with a beauty business offering vegan and cruelty-free treatments. Since then, she has founded ventures across food, wellness, skincare and beyond, all with a strong bootstrapping mindset and a bias for action. Emily studied entrepreneurship and innovation in Australia, where she was first in class for marketing before returning to the UK. During lockdown, she created a business plan for Reco Bowl, a vegan, gluten-free festival catering business she co-founded with a friend, built from a converted horse trailer. She's now in the middle of her boldest leap yet, launching Reco HQ, a sports recovery and wellness space planned for southwest London, inspired by Australian recovery models and designed to be scalable, repeatable and community-centric. Emily is currently raising investment for the business, navigating the realities of capital-intensive model, where a no-code MVP isn't an option, and life is a careful balance of costs, building regs, planning permissions, and health and safety. For the woman who has spoken publicly about how young entrepreneurs take more risks and have more fun, I'm keen to hear how she retains that mindset as her projects scale with ambition, and what happens when entrepreneurial instinct meets infrastructure reality. Emily, welcome to The Leap.
Hi, Josh. Lovely
Hi.
to be here with you today.
Great to have you. So, you've obviously started businesses from a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think younger entrepreneurs have more fun?
Oh, it's a tricky one. I think when I was younger, so I started business when I was 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
My first business was a beauty business called Green Beauty Room. And it was essentially just offering treatments like facials, massage, nails, spray tanning to neighbours, friends, family, anyone who would like a treatment really. And I think back then, I mean, it actually started off when my mum and dad got divorced and my mum was struggling to actually give all three of us, so I've got two siblings, some pocket money. And she said, well, you know, if you want to go out with your friends and you want to enjoy, you know, trips to, at the time it was to Thorpe Park, which is a adventure park, then you need to earn your own money. And so it really came from a place of just needing to earn money just to get by and have fun with friends. But I think as, you know, throughout my teenage years, I sort of realized that really it was we didn't have any risks. We had risks, but we didn't really have to worry about like putting a roof over our heads. We didn't have to worry about feeding children or anything like that. Like I was just earning money because it was an easy thing for me to then be able to go and have friends outings with friends. So it wasn't necessarily that we had more fun. I think we didn't have to worry as much if it went wrong. Maybe if we overspent on a couple of products or if we didn't have clients booking, it wasn't the end of the world because it was fun money. You know, my parents still putting a roof over my head. So I think it taught me from a young age that, you know, you can take some risks, you can be a little bit more creative and have a bit more fun with how you earn money and when to, you know, try different things out, I guess, and not have so much pressure on we have to do this because we have to be profitable. So it gave me time to really learn like the basics of business to then follow into my next businesses.
So tell me about how your career has developed since then. So you went on to study entrepreneurship and innovation, is that right?
Yeah, so a couple of steps before that. So although I did start in business really, really young, I actually did work at a day spa as well. So from the ages of 16 to 21, I worked at a spa called Nirvana Spa, which is one of the largest spas in the UK. It was a really amazing time because it did give me sort of insight into this industry really, really early on. I actually was a therapist at the spa, so I was serving customers all the time. We were selling products, we were doing massage treatments, we were doing all the customer service. So I had, a couple of jobs. I had my beauty business, but then I also worked at a spa. So I had a couple of things to then sort of lead on to my next phase, which was going to university. And throughout university as well, I was still carrying on my beauty business. So I would do nail treatments and beauty treatments in my halls at uni. I don't know if that was really allowed, but it definitely got me through sort of, like those uni days where people were struggling for money. I actually felt that I could still, go on holiday, or I actually went traveling to Thailand for 2 months, Thailand, Vietnam, and Malaysia. And, I could have the means to do that. So then I studied entrepreneurship and innovation at Bonn University on the Gold Coast. And that was a time where I was immersed in a completely new culture. So, obviously still very sort of, similar to the UK, but actually I feel like they're further ahead with some of the trends like beauty trends, food trends, wellness and fitness. So I was just immersed in this incredible culture, and it was just giving me so many ideas for businesses. So that's when I went on to my next business, following on from the beauty business, which was a food catering company. So I suppose throughout all of my sort of business development, and then onto university, that's kind of where I had a lot of my inspirations from.
Interesting. Do you see that there's a difference in the culture around entrepreneurialism between Australia and the UK? Probably quite a hot topic right now.
Yeah, completely. I think for me, when I was living in Australia, so I lived there in two parts. So the first time was when I went out for my degree. So I'd studied there at Bonn University. And then the second time was when I actually went to work for a sports nutrition company. So I went back out again. So there was a bit of a gap where I had to come home for COVID. But then I went back out and I worked for the sports nutrition company. And I think during this time, I was really quite interested in what they were doing. They were, bringing on more fitness, well-being concepts like bathhouses, sports recovery centres. And actually, I remember arriving in Australia for the second time round after being there for university, and I moved in with an Australian girl, and she sat me down on sort of my first week of being there. She said, "Oh, if you want to go to the gym, here's a really good gym that I recommend, and if you'd like to go to Pilates studio, here's a good Pilates studio, and then if you want a recovery centre, then I'd recommend this recovery centre." And I thought, I don't know what she's trying to send me to, but we don't have recovery centres in the UK. If we do have recovery centres, it's usually something to do with drugs or alcohol, nothing to do with sports. And she said, "Oh no, it's saunas, it's ice baths, it's compression, it's red light." And I was like, we just don't have these in the UK. So that was kind of my first understanding that actually there is a lot more creative ideas out there. There's a lot more going on. And actually, that's where I took the whole inspiration for the business plan, which I'm building today.
Do you think they've got more of a focus on health and wellness, a bit more of an innovative approach to it?
Yeah, I mean, completely. I mean, actually, where I was living, so I was living up in the Gold Coast, compared to other parts of Oz, I do believe that is a little bit more health and fitness focus. I think the weather sort of allows it to be a bit more outdoor focus. So everyone, a lot of people wake up at 4:35. They're going for runs along the beach. There was a run club, I forget the name, something like the Salt Run, on Tuesday mornings at 5:15 a.m. So we'd wake up at 4:30. We go down to the salt run, we'd run along the beach, then we'd all grab coffee after, and then maybe go to a sauna ice bath place. And that was the culture. That was how everyone was socialized. They weren't socializing at pubs and places in the evenings. People would be socializing before work. So I definitely feel that, I mean, yes, the weather does allow it, but I think generally people are a bit more fitness and wellness and health focused, especially in the places where I was living.
And so all of your businesses have a health wellness angle. What sort of personally attracted you to that sector?
That's a great question. I think a lot of the inspiration actually probably came from a lot of my family. So my mum's really into health and wellness. My dad, likes to keep fit. They both, so my mum actually is sort of keen triathlete. She loves her cycling, running, swimming. My dad also loves his cycling. My brother now. So I think it's always been in our family that, we've all been quite fitness, health conscious. But I think for me, it really was, my time at university. So the way that I found it easiest to meet people was to join in sort of fitness communities. So when I actually went to uni, I joined the rowing club, I joined dance society. I was kind of one of those people who would just go to like the freshers event hall and pick up every leaflet and join every club and community and sort of see what stuck. I think
So it's the social aspect.
yeah, I definitely think exactly. It was turning up to a new country, a new thing, which was university, and going, how am I going to make friends? How am I going to fit into the community here, fit into the lifestyle here? And the easiest way I could see that happening was to join into sports communities. And even though I'd never done rowing before, I'd never, and absolutely awful at dance. That was short-lived. I think it was just my way of going, well, how am I going to meet people? So I've met some incredible friends through that.
Very good. Being a business owner is tough. Have you ever had any regrets over taking this sort of less well-travelled path?
It's incredibly difficult. As I said, I did start very young, so I could be a little bit more, I didn't have to worry as much when I was, in my early days, because it wasn't going to be the end of the world if I didn't have a client. I still would be fortunate enough to have, my parents sort of put a roof over my head. But I think as time has gone on, it's become increasingly more difficult. So the food business again, I was 21 when I started the food business. So I was living at home and, the food truck was actually parked on my dad's driveway. So I was very fortunate that a lot of those costs, we didn't have to worry about. It was food cost and staff costing and that's what we would have to worry about. But things like big overheads, we didn't. So I think as time goes on, I increasingly, it is, I've also got to now maintain my lifestyle and my putting a roof over my head and don't have the support. So it becomes a lot more difficult because you have to put more pressure on it. And they say the safest thing would be to get a very, stable job. You can get a job and then you won't have to worry about putting on the food on the table every month. But I think for me, I'm a risk taker. I believe wholeheartedly in the visions that I'm creating. So whether that be the Social Recovery Club, or I'm also building like women's communities in fitness as well. So for me, because I believe so much in these, I think, yes, it is risky to an extent, but because you actually are coming up with the business plan and you're sort of using your peers around you and also advisors as well. So I've brought on advisors and sort of an advisory board. I think actually it's mitigating all of those risks and going, I can really create quite a great business from this that, I hope in the future will really pay off. So yes, it is tough. Yes, there are days where I don't have any confidence or I am like, this will never get off the ground, or how are we going to pay this? How are we going to pay that? But actually, just taking a step back and going, this is just one part of the journey. Everyone, no matter if you've got a normal job or you're running a business, you're always going to have a bad day. So I think it's just looking sort of at the bigger picture and sort of working through that and keep going.
Good. You mentioned bringing on an advisory board. Tell me a bit more about that. Why did you choose to bring other people into your projects and what value have they brought?
Yeah, so for the previous two businesses that I've started, they have been completely bootstrapped. I was a solo founder for the first business. My mum actually came to help me after that. The second business I co-founded with my best friend, and we built that business brilliantly together. For this business, because I actually went into it as a solo founder, I knew that I needed to put the right people around me to, that I wasn't so, I guess, knowledgeable on or didn't have the skills in to bounce ideas off to bring it to life. So especially because now I'm raising investment. So I think that was the key difference is now I'm moving from the bootstrapping phase where you can be a little bit more scrappy to going, this is actually a very, important business. It needs to be professionally led, and, we're taking on members into our club. So I need to make sure that we've got all the right foundations. And I have aspirations that, one day we will franchise this and we will grow it into multiple clubs. So I think it's really important that we have the right foundations. So I've chosen people who have commercial backgrounds. So whether that be real estate, or maybe it's in operating sort of actual physical clubs themselves, looking at financial, like people who have scaled boutique fitness hotels or gym chains or whatever. So I've just taken advice from, key areas of a business and chosen people who have all the experience really. So I think that's been really important for me as a solo founder to ensure that we do this in the best possible way to get it to market.
So would you recommend that to others, to surround yourself by more experienced people with different skill sets?
I think it depends. I think it depends on the industry, and it depends if you can, get a sort of a minimum viable product to market without the need of raising as such. We need to raise quite a lot. So if you're maybe an e-com business who, you can maybe trial and test the product and, have constant feedback from your customer, you might not need to have advisors, because actually you can start, testing the product and maybe getting a little bit of revenue that you can kind of build up. And then at the right time, you can maybe bring on advisors and investors. But for us, we have actually had to raise from the, we have to raise to be able to even get something to market. So for us, it's been really important. I think, you want to maintain control of your business for as long as possible, because in the early days, obviously you've got lower valuations and you've got to be careful to, not give it to the wrong people. So I actually, I probably spent time with 30 to 40 people before I chose my advisors. It wasn't a quick overnight decision. I wanted to make sure that I had a good relationship with them, that they were in the industry, that they actually knew what they're talking about, and they weren't just coming on board because they wanted a bit of a percentage in the business and they weren't going to actually do anything. I've heard horror stories from other founder friends that they've brought on advisors that they end up doing, they have growth shares, or they take a big percentage of the business and then they end up doing nothing. So it was really important for me to properly ensure that we would bring on the right people who almost then felt not just advisors in business, but also just personally. If I was having a bad day, I know that I could probably call them up and they'll be a bit of more of a therapist than an advisor in that point of view. So yeah, it took a long time, and you do have to be careful who you bring on board. But it's worked for me, and I'm really, really grateful for the people who are supporting me.
Good. You raise an interesting point about the risk of taking an advisor on and then not doing anything. How have you structured it from a legal point of view to protect yourself against that?
Yeah, so we have made sure that they're all on growth terms, growth shares. So they are conditional upon them actually doing certain type of work. And we've made sure that those people understand the criteria that they need to sort of adhere to be able to have the growth shares vested. And that's just the way that we thought would be the best way to protect our business, really.
And how have you gone about doing that? Have you used a particular platform? I've not gone down this route myself, but things like Seed Legals, is that
so we used Vested. Which is very similar. We spoke to all different companies. We just spoke to Seed Legals, Vested, but actually Vested came out as if you're looking at growth shares in particular, they've got a great sort of structure and they will be very supportive on how that's structured. So that just made sense for us.
The other thing I was interested in touching on is with one of your businesses, Reco, I think you were working with, you said it was your best friend?
Yeah, my best friend.
Friend. What was that dynamic like?
Yeah, great question. So we are still really good friends today, which is good. I think it's challenging. We called it, so whenever we would go out socially not to do with the business, we would say we're not allowed to talk about the baby, as if we were some sort of couple, and say that, you know, business is business, but our friendship is still really important. So we need to make sure that, especially when we're around our other friends, so we've got a group of school friends, and it's really important for us to separate both things. So we would say, yeah, we're going out for dinner tonight, or we're going out with friends. Whatever's happened in our day, we're not talking about it, because we want to maintain that friendship. So we had to just put those boundaries in place to ensure that we maintained our friendship. But we were very, very close throughout all of those times. So we would do absolutely everything together, you know, running a festival business. So we obviously running a series of food trucks where we're serving at the UK's largest festivals, like Wilderness, Camp Festival, Boomtown, Reading Festival, Isle of Wight. We're serving all these festivals. You are living with each other, you know, 24/7 really. You're camping, you're traveling, you're eating, you're literally doing everything. So to be honest, I saw her more than I did my partner. But yeah, I would say, if you ever go into business with someone close to you, I can't speak for family. I think if it's family, I think that would be even more challenging. But you just have to put those boundaries in place.
That makes sense. Often on this podcast, we speak to guests whose careers are defined by one key leap of faith.
Mm-hmm.
You seem to have had several.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like the thrill of stepping into the unknown?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for me, and we talk about whether, you know, entrepreneurs are pushed to go into this field, or they have an opportunity, do they take it? Or in some cases, people are just born with it, and they know that they just want to do that forever. I think I'm a bit of a mix. So when I was young, my mum supported me to obviously do the nail course and the massage treatments course to be able to offer that service. So it was my mum sort of saying, you know, this is what you're going to do to earn money, which I'm grateful for her to sort of help me get into that business. And then for the other one, so I was actually in between so when it was COVID, I was actually working for a law firm. So I came home from Australia and I was finishing my degree, but I also worked for a law firm. And the law firm taught me a lot. I was, you know, again, stable income, you know, which is not something that I always had. So it was great. It was lovely. It was, you know, good money. And I was learning so many skills. I was actually promoted to operations director. So I was looking after all parts of the law firm, so conveyancing, family law, and I was helping putting in systems. And through that, I guess I really, you know, learned so much. But deep down, I knew that wasn't going to be my end career. Deep down, I knew that I wanted to have that sort of entrepreneurialism again. And I really missed that creativity, and also just like the flexibility, and also seeing that every, you know, little bit of work that you do is, you can then see the impact it has. So as an entrepreneur, if you're, you know, building something, like, you can see that impact happening, whether it's, you know, today or maybe it's in like a month's time. Like, that's the exciting part of building a business. Whereas if you're working in something like a law firm, and obviously most, you know, there's a lot of people that do it really, really well. For me, it wasn't creative enough. So I stepped away from that quite abruptly, actually, to start the food business, because my friend Jess and I, who's the co-founder of Reco Bowl, we were on a walk one day and we said, let's give this business a go. So I did leave that all, you know, I left that all, like all the stability, all the income, like potentially I could have, you know, moved up even further to go, right, we're going to start from square one with nothing. We're going to start a food business. So I think that was probably the biggest leap of faith. Because that was going from stability and sort of, you know, potentially a really great career, but deep down knowing that wasn't fulfilling me, and that wasn't bringing out actually my personality. So I think that, you know, led me to, you know, going back to square one. I probably spent about 6 months to a year of developing again and like building myself up, and not only the business but also, you know, personally as well. Like, you know, to go back a step, it's really scary to go, I have just left something that really could have given me a great lifestyle to And I'm like, why am I doing this? But, you know, for me, I know that that is much more fulfilling. Like having no money, building something and seeing results. And like for us, we were serving really healthy, good food at festivals, and like seeing that with customers and getting the feedback of, oh my goodness, I'm so happy that you're serving this food, because I usually go to festivals and they've got burgers and hot dogs and really unhealthy food. So thank goodness you're here. And we're like, these are the reasons why we do this. And I know in future businesses, that's also going to be the reason why as well. So yeah, to go back to your point, I think that was a big leap of faith, because it was into the unknown. It was being vulnerable. It was going, I have no idea if this is going to make me money, no idea if this is actually a good business model. But I know that it's fulfilling me, and I know that I'm doing it with my best friend. So it's fun. And also we were at the age, so we were 21 when we started that business, that again, you know, I didn't want to just be stuck in a law firm. Like I still wanted to travel around, and I wanted to, just be a bit more creative. And I knew that that was a good time to do it and take the risk. So then now going into this business, it is another leap of faith, because I've sold that business now. So I exited Reco at the end of last year. And again, it was a profitable business. We were profitable the whole time, which we were so proud of, because actually in that industry, it's very, very difficult to be profitable. So I took another leap of faith to go, right, I'm going to pass that business on. We've done our time there. And now we're going to start a new business and see what we can grow in this industry. Because Reco, I felt it hit a ceiling, and you can only go so far with a food truck business. I mean, some people do really, really well. You can maybe have thousands, but actually it wasn't the business that I wanted to grow and scale. So when I saw this as an opportunity to grow Reco or start Reco, I thought actually this is the next leap of faith that I want to do to progress my career and see where I can take it.
Makes sense. And having sold a business, do you feel that gives you a bit of a safety net? And has that meant that you're able to take slightly bolder decisions with your current business?
So to let you into a little bit of a secret, I didn't actually originally have the ambition of selling it. So I had Reco Bowl on the side. I got it to a position where we had managers in place, and we also had franchised it. So we could, you know, have that sort of passive income, I guess, still rolling. We built a brilliant brand up, so we could have that rolling in the background. What was quite interesting was when I had the opportunity to then start Reco, was going, I could run them side by side. I know some people have multiple businesses and they run them quite successfully. For me, it was going, well, actually, if I do continue to do both, will that potentially have an impact in the long run? Like when I see this as a huge opportunity to run Reco and build it into a multi-site business, what is the opportunity cost? So I thought, I'm going to just try to do both. We did maybe 6 months to 8 months where I was raising investment, getting the business off the ground. Then it got to a point of going, right, I can actually see that if I can do this properly, I probably need like another year of speaking to investors, doing the concept. That's when I decided to look into selling it, just to honestly keep like my cash flow personally. you know, so I actually looked into selling it, and that's given me just a little bit more time. It's just given me a bit more breathing space to go, I can actually now do this, you know, do this business really, really well.
I mean, you touched on franchising. Tell me a little bit more about your thought process with that. It's always been something I've been interested in for the physio space, which is my sort of former background. But tell me what you explored and ultimately why you decided to sell the business rather than go down the sort of franchise expansion route.
Of course. So for us, again, I don't think it actually probably would have happened had I not seen an opportunity for Reco that was then taking up my headspace as well. So the reason we looked into franchising with Reco was because we built a great brand. We'd had so many festival offers. We were constantly getting inquiries for weddings, corporate events, retreats, so many things. And I just physically couldn't do that many events. And actually another food catering company approached us and said, we love your brand, we love what you're doing, we've seen you at loads of festivals, we serve meat and like burgers and hot dogs and things, we actually want to bring more vegan into our offering, because they, if they've got a brand name that is known for being like more greasy, meaty foods, then if they just suddenly started doing vegan food, then it would make no sense. But they knew that actually people wanted more healthy food at festivals, and they wanted to, not just eat rubbish when they're when they're out and about. So they actually approached us and said, look, can we take your brand on as part of our offering? So we kind of actually initially we I guess we stumbled upon it, but the more and more I realized, actually, if I am going to be doing another business, I cannot do both. So it was a really lovely way for me to carry on the brand, to almost still like have the value of the brand, because I didn't want it to go to waste. Like, we'd spent 5 years, maybe 4 years by that point, building a brand, getting ourselves into these festivals, and just establishing ourselves in the market. And it's such a waste to then go, just because it doesn't fit into our lifestyle anymore, we don't want to just shut it down. I know that people do that when they, maybe they have children, or maybe something changes in their life that they can't run a business. And I'm like, don't just let it go to waste. If it's a profitable business and you've got a great brand, then surely there's something you can do. So I just went on, well, we obviously did the franchise, but I also was advertising the brand on things like Facebook. Like in the trader groups, there was like other traders who were posting things on there. So I posted it in there, and we had lots of interest. I posted it on Businesses for Sale, different places, and people were coming to me and saying, I love your brand. Like, I want to get into the food catering industry, but it is so difficult to establish ourselves, especially when there are lots of different food catering companies out there. How are we going to compete really in the industry? So it was going, yes, we have actually established something, us realizing that we have created something really special, and going, how can we pass that on to someone else? So I think, yes, it is franchising, but it's also a way that if you are operationally not able to do it yourself, you can pass that on to someone who can then scale it, globally, nationally, wherever. And for us, it was, we could just get into so many more events. We could get into, so many different, we could actually do the events that originally we had turned down. So that was a real relief, because it was going, yes, we could scale, we could bring on more managers, we could bring on more staff, we could have more food trucks, but going, am I quite in the headspace? When I'm looking at another business, I'm not quite in the headspace to do that. So yeah, it was just a great opportunity for us, and I'm really grateful to those people who approached us, because yeah, it meant that Reco Bowl is still able to run now.
Great. So it was more of an organic sale.
It was organic, yeah.
Fine. Let's talk about your investment raise.
Yeah.
So this is your first formal raise.
Mm-hmm.
What have you learned about the fundraising process?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So as I said, we bootstrapped the other two businesses. And when I came up with the idea of starting Reco HQ, I knew that we needed a lot more money than I had personally, or that potentially we could have got from external sources like landlords or whoever else. So I didn't think it'd been this much, though. Definitely very ignorant when I thought of starting a wellness business in a physical space. So we've actually got 18 investors on board now, but that's taken me about a year and a half to achieve. We started off trying to just do it as like a 50-50 partnership with someone I knew. And they putting in half, us putting in half, and then maybe the landlord supporting as well. I think for us, we wanted to do it really well. Like, we know that we want to have really good suppliers. We want to have incredible treatments as part of our recovery centre. So the way Reco HQ was originally going to be built was as a social wellness club. And then the more and more we sort of built up that narrative, we wanted it to be very specific to a type of person. So essentially, we are building a social recovery club for the everyday athlete. So we're looking at high roxers, triathletes, people who are maybe doing their first Ironman or first marathon, those people who work hard, but they also like to train hard. They're typically like high performers, not professional athletes, because if you're a professional athlete, you're probably not having like a full-on day job as well, but they're the kind of people we're targeting, the kind of people who have like a really high-flying job but also have the same expectation of themselves in fitness and sport. So with that comes the need of good quality facilities. So therefore we need to actually put the investment into great quality saunas, ice baths, red light therapy, compression, and also having the right experts. So hence why I brought on the advisory board, hence why we're looking at the right investors to come on board. So for me, it's taken a long time, and it's taken a lot of energy and a lot of work to really get the narrative right, rather than just setting up another sauna and ice bath company, because there's a lot coming to market. We've put a lot of time into understanding our customer and really building that into the narrative while we're raising investment. So now we're in a position where we've got the investors who really understand us, who maybe they've built businesses themselves in this industry, and they're able to support us. And we're really proud that when we get to the stage where we can actually build Reco HQ, we feel that we've got, we're targeting the right people. We feel confident in our offering, and we feel that we've set ourselves up in the best possible way for success.
Have you found the investors have been quite receptive to the model?
Yeah, I mean, it's taken me a long time to find the right investors. I think my spreadsheet maybe sits like 500 investors now. You honestly, hats off to anyone raising investment, because it's a numbers game. You have to, find people on LinkedIn, go to networking events. I am absolutely, all over those networking events. It takes a lot of time, but when you find the right people, they get it instantly. I think that's the thing for me. You can sometimes, I've realized that I spent too much time chasing the wrong people. Whereas if you find the right person that, understands what you're trying to achieve, understands your customer, you can build that connection really quickly. And they, as you say, they can be very receptive to that model. And also they get excited themselves, and you think, yes, I am building a great business. Come on board on the journey, and we can, help build it together.
When you say they get it, what are you referring to? Are they looking at the return on investment? Are they backing you? Are they backing the marketplace? What have you noticed, or what have you learned through this process about what the investors are actually looking for? What are they backing?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of investors do ask, what's the exit plan? What's the what are you looking to do? But I think that's only a few, and I think if I'm actually recalling that, not many of them have actually come on board. Those people who are really just looking for the end result. And also, I don't think I'd want those investors who would just see it as like a 5-year play and then exit. Actually, this is going to be a business that we will exit from at some point, and obviously you need to have that as part of being an investor. But those investors who also equally maybe have had insight into the industry itself. Maybe they've understood the business model. Maybe they understand, as I said, the customer. Maybe they've understood the type of even just how the real estate market works. Like that in itself is a huge part of the business that we're creating. So for some people it's different. Sometimes it is just developing the relationship with the founder, so the relationship with myself. Sometimes it is with the actual business, and sometimes it's going, well, I actually want to support this business because personally I'm interested in it and I see myself as the customer. So it's a mix of different things. But yeah, those people who only see it for the exit, I mean, they're looking more VC. Maybe they're involved in VC somewhere, and I think we're not at the right point where we would look at those kind of investors. I've been quite selective with the types of investors that I'm bringing on.
Fine. So it's a bit more about the story than it is the financials.
Completely.
Cool. And can you give us a sneak insight into what that first site's going to look like? I know you're not quite at launch phase yet, but what's that first site going to look like? What's the customer journey going to be? Give us a bit of an idea.
Yeah, this is the exciting part, right? I've spent a long time just talking to investors and landlords, and selling the commercial side, but actually this is the side that really excites me, and I'm so excited to bring this into proper operation. So for us, as I said, we are building saunas and ice bars. We are bringing that into our concept, but it's more than that. We are a social recovery club. So we're looking at this as what people do after they finish work, after they finish the gym. Maybe they want to come and hang out here on a Friday night, Saturday morning, Sunday morning. This is going to replace where people would socialize, say, like they would at the pub or in country clubs like back in the day, or in, clubs and different places. So this is the place where people are going to start to congregate and socialize day to day. So it's not supposed to be a place that you would come as like a one-off. Like, I know a lot of people say go to a physio as like when they're injured or they want to maybe prepare for like a race. So it's not something that they necessarily always integrate in their day-to-day, whereas we want Reco to be part of your day-to-day. So for us, it's actually, yes, it's going to be recovery, as in we'll have saunas and ice bars and red light and compression, but the whole feel of it is really going to be community focused. It's going to be the social club elements. We'll have events, networking, panel talks. We'll have brands come down and do sort of events. We'll host run clubs from there, cycle groups, and it's really going to be that community place. So if you're in a residential space, like we're actually looking at lots of like suburban sort of residential places to sort of start the concept and then scale the concept. We want to be the hub of the community. We want people to come and see that as the place that they want to, hang out. So yes, it is sports recovery, but it's very much focused on the community, very much focused on sort of being part of something more than that, and actually making people feel like they're welcome, that it's like a bit homely as well. So part of the name even, so we're Reco HQ. Reco is recovery and HQ is, yes, it's headquarters, but it's supposed to be like the home of recovery, so where people can, really come together.
And looking beyond that first site, how do you see the business scaling? Is it something you can replicate outside of London, which I know is where your first site's going to be?
Yeah, so first site is planned for Southwest London, and then we've actually got our eyes on nationally and internationally. So I think,
Exciting.
yes, I think hitting the big cities. I know that we have some difficulties around the world right now, but I would love to sort of go over to, say, Dubai, parts of Asia, maybe looking even further beyond. I know obviously Australia is where my original inspiration came from. The US, there's loads of opportunities still there. I know that they've actually got quite a lot of these similar concepts scaled and franchised and everything. But I think hitting the right cities is going to be where we're going to be looking next. I think for us, we wanted to establish in London because I think I understand this market the best right now as my journey as a founder. All my communities are here. I've built recovery clubs, triathlon clubs for females here. I'm networked with like loads of triathlon communities and fitness groups. So I think for me it was great to establish, to really build the brand and get it like a solid foundation, so that when we actually then look to scale, people understand it and people understand how that's worked in London. So yeah, we have very exciting plans for the future. I think there's so much opportunity. Obviously I would, because I'm building this business, but I think this is the new way that people are going to socialize.
Excellent. I love to see the ambition.
Thank you.
And lastly, what piece of kit, information, tool, or advice do you think is essential for anyone considering their own leap of faith and becoming an entrepreneur?
Of course, you have to be very brave and have courage when you are taking that leap of faith to start a business or move into something different career-wise. For me, I think, yes, it's the bravery and the courage, but actually the next part of the journey, which is actually when it gets difficult. So the first bit, it might actually be, okay, we're going to start planning for this business, or we're going to start, talking to investors. But actually, it's when you have done it for, say, 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months to a year, and you go, I've been doing this for a year and nothing has happened yet. That's when it actually counts. Like, that's the resilience, that's the persistence, that's the bit where you go, and the patience, I guess, as well. It's you're having to just keep going and to keep powering on, because it doesn't happen instantly. Like, you take the leap and you just expect it, oh yeah, like we're going to be settled. No, actually, it's not like starting a job in a normal, corporate office. you're starting a business, so therefore you're taking several steps back. You haven't got a foundation. You've got to do a business plan, speak to the right people, learn your customer, build the business model, all these things. So I think, yeah, be patient, but make sure that you're maintaining your resilience, and just being persistent, and talk to the right people, get yourself out there, and just don't give up. I think it is so easy to take that leap and then think, oh, actually, it's obviously not going to work because it's taking too long. No, you're either just taking a little bit of a detour and you need to come back on track, or you've just not stuck at it for long enough. So I'm telling this to myself because it's been a long time, but I'm proud of myself for doing all the right things. And as I say, it's important to get the foundation. So having the right people, making sure we really understand our customer, getting the right plan in place, to make it the best success it can be.
Excellent. I think there's some really strong messages in there for anyone listening.
Lovely.
Emily, thank you so much. It's been really
you.
insightful. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you've enjoyed this episode of The Leap, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss future conversations. Follow Verilo on LinkedIn for more insight, advice and honest thinking on the realities of buying, selling and growing clinics. And if today's conversation has got you thinking about a leap of your own, remember, it's rarely simple, but with the right perspective and support, it can be the most rewarding step you'll ever take. This is The Leap from Verilo. Thanks for listening and we'll see you next time.